Hi guys, and welcome to probably what is going to be one of my favourite interviews. In fact, no, I'm going to put it out there. This is going to be my favourite interview because I am sat here with the Stuart Trevor at the Retail Tech Show. If you don't know who Stuart is, well, I'm about to tell you because he's pretty impressive. He is the original founder. There was only one founder. He is the founder of AllSaints. He is now the founder of Stuart Trevor, and he's going to share with me his entire journey. I'm going to dig deep because you've obviously had a fantastic career. Reese, AllSaints, now Stuart Trevor. We're going to unpack all of it, and I'm going to try not to lose my voice and give most of the mic time to the lovely Stuart. I'm very excited.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Pleasure, yeah.
Here we go. Right, Stuart, tell me. I mean, also, for anyone who's watching, the outfit, I mean, you just look the part.
I've made a little bit of an effort.
Yeah, incredibly trendy. Tell me, give me the Stuart version of your history in fashion.
So, I have to be quick about this because I've done these sort of things before, and then we're 20 minutes in and the guy goes, listen, mate, you're still 8 years old.
We're doing the whistle stop tour.
When I was 8, I fell in love with David Bowie and Kate Bush and hand-me-down clothes, Scotland, single parent, mum, 4 kids. And all we ever got was hand-me-down clothes. There were no fashion stores. So I used to get these clothes and take them out the suitcase and go, Mum, can you put pleats in them like David Bowie and make them fit me, you know? And I learned to sew at that age and became obsessed with, I wanted to be David Bowie. And so I ended up, customizing vintage clothes. And it's kind of funny because I've ended up in full circle at Stuart Trevor. That's what I do now. Everything we do is vintage clothes, and I upcycle it. I add patches or take it in, or alter the sleeves or make it fit. And I find this incredible what you can find out there. So it's it's fun. And it's fun.
Are you going to make me an outfit?
Yeah, come and see me.
I really want to.
I have the most incredible studio in Hoxton, just north of Shoreditch, and it's open to the public. We invite people to come and join us there and go shopping. It's an Aladdin's cave, so you would die when you get there. You will just fall in love with so much. Yeah.
Can you give us the strap line for Stuart Trevor? So Stuart Trevor is the only fashion brand that doesn't make its own fashion.
No. So people came to me. I was looking after mentoring young brands that have a positive social environmental impact. And I was taking them to investors. There was a beauty company that have women in Africa paying 4 times the going rate for sheer nut butter. And there was a bakery that employ victims of domestic abuse and asked them to stand up and, talk about their, issues they'd had. And there was a coffee roasters that employ ex-offenders and teach them to become barista so that they could, don't go back to jail selling drugs, and a denim company that were taking vintage denim and upcycling it. And she was teaching me all these things about how, there's statistics about fashion world is horrendous. There's a pile of clothes the height of Mount Everest going into landfill every 7 seconds. There's 150 billion garments a year in production. That's 50 for every human being on the planet. And, of course, there are a billion people out there that can't feed their kids. So we could go 8 to 10 generations without producing another garment, and we'd still have more than enough clothes to go around. So I had these investors, and I was bringing these, startup brands, these, positive social environmental impact, taking these to investors, and all these investors were like, I used to love Reese and I used to love AllSaints, but you've been dressing me all my life and I love what you're wearing. Why don't you do another brand? And I was like, the last thing the world needs is another clothing brand. And they were, but where did you get that jacket? And I've been doing this sort of thing when I was at AllSaints, when I was at Reese, customizing vintage. And they were like, I've never seen anything like it. I fucking love that jacket. Where can I get one? And I went away and I thought, what about a clothing brand that doesn't produce any clothing? What about, the world needs that. The world needs someone to stand up and go, I can create a whole designer collection without making a single garment. So we launched it in September 2023. We're about £1 million turnover run. But it's early days and people love it. People go ballistic. We've got 20,000 customers half of which are return customers. So it's exciting.
Very exciting. And I'm going to get dressed by you. So
Yeah.
I'm even more excited. Now, I'm going to take you a bit further back, in between 8 and where you are today. As you've kind of referenced, you worked at Reese.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you founded All Saints.
Yeah.
I'm super interested in the All Saints story because I am a huge fan of the brand. I have worn their clothes many a time for many years. In fact, Dom, who sat behind the camera, I've actually bought him All Saints t-shirts for his Christmas presents before.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So tell me about the.
There's a story behind those t-shirts.
Is there? Well, but first, give me the stories about the t-shirts, but then I want the
How I
why.
started it.
Yeah, I want that.
Okay.
That's what I want.
The story behind the t-shirt is the amount of guys that have come up to me and said, "Oh my God, I'm so pleased. I can't believe it's you. Do you know what? I have got 3 kids because of you." And I'm like, "What?" And they're going, I bought a t-shirt with a little ram skull on it and I wore it to my local pub. And the girl who runs the pub came up to me and just basically planted a smacker on me. And I was in love with her, but she'd never even, never noticed me. And that night I ended up, basically we ended up in bed. We've now got 3 kids and it's all down to you. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Have you still got the t-shirt? They were, you joking? I went and bought 10 the next day. So there's a lot of stories around that, yeah.
I love that. Yeah, helping men pull since 2003.
Well, do you know what?
When was the brand born?
I started in 1994.
1994. Helping men pull.
Well, it's not just men, because we launched women's wear in 1998. And we were the first brand that had boyfriend and girlfriend shopping together. So the Kooples, little known fact, is a copy of All Saints based on the first brand that men and women go shopping together. So
I'm not
couples,
surprised. I'm not
as
surprised.
in, yeah, because before that.
Oh, and that's why the Kooples is called the Kooples.
Yes.
Because it's couples.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
So the All Saints brand, what was your vision when you started? And tell me how All Saints came about.
So I wanted to create the greatest rock and roll brand in the world. And that's what I'm doing with Stuart Trevor. I failed with All Saints because it's just mass market crap now. But I'm only joking. It's of course it's renowned as one of the greatest rock and roll brands. But now we're dressing the new brand. We dress virtually every one of the best bands in the world. And we just dressed the last dinner party. Last week we had Duran Duran, who were favourites of mine when I was a kid. We dressed them for some Sunday Times article because they've got a comeback coming on. The Molotovs, who are just on tour with Youngblood. Lots of rock and roll. So I wanted to dress bands. So I fell in love with David Bowie as a young kid. I wanted to be David Bowie. I ended up dressing all the rock bands like David Bowie, Depeche Mode, Placebo, Guns N' Roses, The Who for the Super Bowl, and then for the closing ceremony, the Olympics, The Cure. I mean, it's...
And is that how it started? It was your vision really was to make cool rock and roll clothing?
Do you know what it was? I just wanted to wear clothes, make clothes that I wanted to wear.
And there wasn't anything out
exist.
there, yeah.
So, and when I was young, as I said, like 8 to 16 years old, I grew up in the greatest period of rock and roll history, pop music, hip hop. Everything was invented in between, 1980 and 1995 or whatever. And I saw, as a young kid, 14 years old, Michael Jackson appeared with Off the Wall. And then I was into Duran Duran, and then there was Japan, and then there was Adam Ant, and then there was Kate Bush, and there was Blondie, Debbie Harry. There was all these, and MTV came about, and all you see as a young kid is, I want to be them, I want to be, So I ended up customizing my school uniform. Kids at school used to buy things from me. I did sweatshirts with, stupid slogans on the back, so that you could take your blazer off at school and you could sit there and you wouldn't get in trouble because you'd have something stupid written on the back, like I did one with Royal Moi and all, because we used to pretend that we were royal or whatever, and I remember the schoolmaster like laughing, everyone's pissing themselves laughing, and they're going, what are you laughing at? And they couldn't work out it. They're laughing at my t-shirt because I'm a sweatshirt. And then everyone bought them. And so, yes, from a young age, I started customizing clothes, wanting to look like a rock god. And then did 10 years at Reese. David Reese was my mentor. He basically gave me free open rein to do whatever I wanted. It was a bit of a struggle in the beginning. He didn't really understand it because he's quite a classic, preppy, suit and tie, chinos, loafers type of guy. And I was coming up with little bomber jackets with patches on. And in the beginning, he was like, this is just cheap disco rubbish. Who's going to wear that? But he would allowed me to do some, and I had to do all the suits, the boring suits and the ties, and but I would add these little bits in and they would be the best sellers. So all of a sudden I was doing safari jackets and 4-button suits with waistcoats and high-waisted and they were the best sellers, but he still called it cheap disco rubbish. So after about 10 years at Reiss, I wanted to do my own thing. So I registered the name, launched it.
Yeah, how did you come up with the name? I'm interested in that.
So my initials are ST, like Simon Templar, the saint. And I had to come up with a name. And when I was about 20, I bought a vintage car. I wanted the Aston Martin DB5 that James Bond drove. I couldn't afford it. I found a Volvo P1800, and it's the car that Roger Moore drove before he became James Bond. And it's low sportswear, little sports car with little fins on the back. It's fucking beautiful. There's a picture with
there it is.
Roger Moore sat on the bonnet of this car. It's the sexiest car. I bought that when I was 20 and drove it around London. And everybody used to go, "Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, it's a saint, it's a saint." So when I turned up, so I had to come up with a name because I launched AllSaints in collaboration with a Chinese manufacturer, and I didn't want them owning 50% of my name. So I had to come up with a pseudonym. So I wrote a list like ST, Mr. Saint, The Saint. And then I was on All Saints Road during Carnival, completely slaughtered. And I looked up and I saw All Saints. And I thought, do you know what? If someone asked me, where did you get your jacket from? And you're like, All Saints. It's much rolls off the tongue, much better than The Saint, Mr. Saint, or whatever. So we registered All Saints. And that was it. And of course, I mean, now when you look at it, it's such an amazing, brilliant name or whatever. In the beginning, nobody thought that. They just thought, it's a name. But also I had religious undertones because I was brought up as a Mormon. My family are all Mormons, and the Mormon church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint. So I quite like that as well. So it was, and one of the first things that I did that was really cool is I did these studded belts, a bit like these, same factory, with Jesus Loves You on them. And I don't know whether you remember them.
I had one of those.
We sold about 1 million of them.
Yeah, I had one of those.
They were unbelievable. Do you know, at one point, when I sold the business in 2007, when I sold the business, we were selling 5,000 of them a week. It was one of the but I also did All Saints Rocks. I did Ibiza Rocks, which they then launched a nightclub and hotel in Ibiza named after that belt. We did all, when we opened in Glasgow, we did Glasgow Rocks, and I did Glastonbury Rocks with Kate Bush wearing Glastonbury Rocks belt, because that was that was what invented festival chic sort of thing. But that was 2003, Glastonbury. It was the one where it rained and all the models wandered around wearing my Glastonbury Rocks belts. But yeah.
Stuart, you're an actual legend, you know that.
What were we talking about? I can't remember what
it's fine. We're just talking about you. It's great. I'm loving this. So talk to me about starting the brand. Like, obviously you've started a couple of brands now.
Yeah.
Like, when did you know, let's talk about All Saints first. When did you know it was going to be a big thing? And what were the kind of, I guess, those foundational things that you did that you think made the brand such a success?
So a lot of people don't realise, but most designers, every designer, they don't sit in a room and draw pictures. They go to flea markets, they go to warehouses with vintage military, they find original samples and they take them to a factory and they get a pattern made, and they take them to a fabric mill and they get the fabric copied, and then they add studs to it or belts, and they design using inspiration from vintage. So I've been doing that for 40 years more than that, since I was 8. So 50 years, yeah, taking vintage pieces and styling them. When we were young, back in early 80s, there weren't fashion stores. There was no Zara, there was no H&M, there wasn't even Topshop. There wasn't even, there was nothing. So we used to go to Army and Navy stores, and we used to go to jumble sales, and we'd go, hand-me-down clothes from your brother, your sister, your friends, or friends of my mum's from her church or whatever, and you would customize them. And you would, even in the 80s, dressed in a bin bag or whatever, people would make a dress out of a bin bag and put a studded belt on it and wear it to a club like the Blitz or the Wag Club or Camden Palace or whatever. And we would get vintage band T-shirts and cut the sleeves off them and make like a vest and vintage biker jackets and things like that. So, all of that stuff, I just took all those ideas of all I ever wanted as a young kid and replicated it for the first ever collection of AllSaints. And the first season, I had Prada had just launched a rucksack that was made out of nylon, and it was the coolest accessory in the world. And I just got hold of that nylon, and I thought, right, I got my favourite vintage garments. I had a bomber jacket like this that's all slim and tiny at the waist, slightly cropped, deep rib cuffs, and I did a field jacket, I did a parka, I did a cagoule, I did a mac, I did combat pants, and I did jeans, and I made them all in the nylon. And then I thought, well, I know what I'll do. I'll also make it in moleskin, because moleskin was really like cotton brushed moleskin. So I did the whole range in that, and I did it in wool flannel. So we had 3 collections, and I did a show with a wall like this, and I couldn't afford mannequins. I put a nail in the wall with a hanger on it with the jacket, and I put the pants underneath, pair of shoes on the bottom. We launched it. I think it was in, when would it have been? It would have been in January 1995. So the first collection was for autumn winter 95. We showed it at Paris Fashion Week, and when we opened up the stand on the first day, by midday I had secured orders and appointments with every one of the best department stores and independent retailers in the world, from Harvey Nichols, Selfridges, Harrods, Liberty's, Barney's New York, Saks Fifth Avenue, Seibu, Hong Kong, Isetan, Japan. I mean, all going crazy, like this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And we were a little bit shocked because there was only me, an assistant, and the Chinese partner. We were just sitting writing orders like you could. I mean, we wrote £250,000 in one day. It was a joke. It was mental. And then we had to deliver it, and we delivered it. And then the following season, I think in the first season we did 1.5 million orders, and that was 30 years ago. So it's the equivalent of 15 million in the first year. Something like that. Mathematicians would be better at working out.
But that's pretty epic. I mean, it feels like the product was so important then. Do you think the quality, not necessarily the quality, but the design of like I buy clothes because I like certain brands. There are certain brands that I really love, their styling, how they look. But in today's world, how important do you think the product is compared to the actual brand? Like, do people buy the brand and for the marketing, or are they still buying the product?
That's the problem with the fashion business, isn't it? That's why I launched Stuart Trevor, because the quality in the old days is much better than the quality now. And there are brands, even like AllSaints, even all of them, they all went for a certain period down this, they didn't, when I ran AllSaints, I would be going on these fabric mills and I'd be like, where's your organic range? And they would be like, oh, thank God you're here. No one else is interested. And I would insist on buying organic fabrics. And for me, it's always been really important. It was always been really important to use up dead stock or to produce things in the most, most beautiful. I have factories that I work with for years, manufacturers, and they would come to me. A couple of years ago, they came to me and they went, do you know, we used to drive us insane because you were so fastidious about the quality, and we were so scared of you coming because you would be, and all I wanted was to have the very best. I thought, if it isn't, I remember my ex-wife at the point was running women's wear, and she said to me, we were talking to her, she went, that'll do. And I went, no, it won't. What would Prada do? What would Helmut Lang do? What would Nebula like? But we're not Prada. We're not. And I'm like, we're more than them. We have to have the best quality. So these factories are like, Stuart, you taught us how to make incredibly beautiful clothing, and now we have an enormously successful business because we utilize those goals in everything that we do. Try and be the best at everything, and that's what I try and do now. It's what I think when I have young interns coming in, I try and teach everyone that we're only on this planet once. Make them, do everything you can, everything within your means, but to the highest levels that you could possibly do, quality wise, and also longevity. Number one word in my mind from the day that I launched All Saints was longevity. I wanted people to buy these clothes and still be wearing them now, 30 years later. And lots of people write to me and tell me that they are still. And now their kids are raiding their wardrobes and falling in love with, vintage All Saints. Apparently, vintage All Saints is worth more than new All Saints.
It is. It sounds. I'll check it out on Vinted. It's worth a lot of money.
Yeah,
it really is.
So maybe it works. It works. I believe that it works. I believe we should be trying to do the very best that we can in everything. Yeah.
Stuart, I have loved chatting to you. I want to keep chatting, but I've got my next guest waiting outside. I can see she's eager to come in.
At least I'm not 8 years old.
No, you've done it.
We got to 50.
We got to 50. And I want to get you back on because there's so much more I want to ask you. So I'm actually going to, when we post this episode out, hi guys, I'm going to ask you lot for your questions. And next time Stuart's on, which is going to be soon.
Yes.
Got a studio in London. We'll come and get you in the studio. I'm going to ask you even more questions.
Love it. Cool. Thank you. Save the planet one garment at a time. StuartTrevor.com.